Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we come together to learn more about monitoring production applications with application insights. My name is Hassam Mohseni. I'm the program manager for Microsoft Reactor in Abu Dhabi. Microsoft Reactors are hubs for founders and developers to meet, learn, and connect to local peers, as well as industry-leading ideas and technology from Microsoft partners and the open source community. It's also home to the Microsoft for Startups program. With a diverse mix of hands-on workshops, expert panels, and community events, there's something for everyone. Check out our calendar of events on meetup.com and join our coming sessions. Our speaker today is Ahmed Raboudi. Ahmed works for Microsoft as a senior premier field engineer focusing on assisting customers in providing a highly scalable and available applications on the cloud. Ahmed has been acting as a technical advisor for Global 500 Fortune companies for more than 4 years on DevOps and development best practices. Feel free to ask questions during the session. We will have regular stops to answer these questions, and also feel free to tweet about this session and tag us on Twitter. The hashtag is Reactor Abu Dhabi and the Twitter handle is MSFT Reactor. And also make sure that you adjust the playback settings to select the highest quality for the best experience during the hands-on part. And with all that said, I hand over the mic to our speaker to start the session.
Here we go, sorry. So today we start talking about monitoring production application with application insight. So the purpose of this presentation is to let you know how we are able today to handle applications that are scaling very fast and that need to support many million of users. So before start talking about application insight, we start talking about how to monitor an application. What is the purpose of doing so? So when you have your application that is in production, you face many questions. One of them is my application service meeting my KPI? Is my application crashing? I don't know, maybe it's crashing, maybe it's working fine or not. How many people are impacted by any issue? What are the root cause for this? What is exactly going on? Is something related to my dependency, or it's something related to what I have to the last release? Or also I need to know if my application is loading fast enough for all my users, since I have many users that are Azure-wide localized, and I want to know if all my users have the same experience. I also want to know, are my dependency calls are slow or not? Are they responsive? Are my servers able to handle the load? If, for example, I have a promotion, I have an event, and I want to know if my servers will be able to handle this load or not. And one also more interesting question is my application up or down? Maybe you say, okay, I know is my application up or down, but we'd be surprised that sometimes we get this information too late. So to go through application monitoring, you need to go three stages. The first one is the detection of the issue. The second one is the triage, and the third one is the diagnose. To be able to do those three phases, this is the normal phases to go through troubleshooting of any issue in the production. So you will be able to detect from your insights many indicator or KPIs. One of them may be site availability. Is my site available now or not? Resource availability. Is the resource that I'm using available or not? User availability. Is my application getting users? Are my users able to go to my application? As soon as I have the telemetry that will enable me to detect the issue, I will go to the triage. The triage, that means I will try to qualify the issue. That is the issue. So to triage an issue, what I will do is I will try to figure out what is the user impact and what are the scenarios that is impacted by this issue. This is very important to prioritize the issue, the issue, and to know if the troubleshooting is critical or not. As soon as I have finished the detection and the triage phases, I can go to the diagnose one. And with the diagnose phase, I will try to figure out what's happened, so I can get all the information from the request monitoring, from the capacity monitoring of my system, dependency monitoring, log and events, and the stack trace down also could be very, very helpful. So those are the 3 phases that you need to go through to be able to troubleshoot an issue in the production. And for each one of these phases, you need to have some specific metrics to be able to get the right information and to be able to take the right decision. So application insight is an application performance monitoring manager that was designed by Microsoft to monitor production applications that are in Azure, and that is very, very widely used inside Microsoft. So let's take an example about Application Insight. Application Insight will be able to get information from your web pages, from your client application. This could be desktop applications, could be any kind of application. So it will be able also to get the client metrics and also to have your web servers, that means your backend, your server, what is happening inside your servers, metrics. Everything that is running inside your servers, we call dependency, for example, for SQL for database. We call also external services. For example, you are using Office 365 integration, SAP integration, Salesforce integration. You want to know if it is if the dependency is doing well or not. And also you can monitor other background services. For example, you have many microservices and you want to know each microservice's call the dependency to get information about it. So all of this will be gathered by application insights. Application insights will be able to produce you from all the collected metrics to provide you with alerts. That means you'll be able to be notified as soon as there is some issue, for example, with the response time delay, to provide you with a visualization platform inside Power BI. Also, you have a full integration with Visual Studio, the IDE for Microsoft development. You have a REST API that you can use with Application Insight to be able to go through all what is inside Application Insight without having to go through the portal. And also, it provides you with continuous export of your metrics data. Continuous export is very interesting because you need to know that Application Insight, it's an APM, it's Application Performance Manager. So the purpose of this kind of application is not to log your application events, but it's to get metrics. That means, for example, inside your application, if you want to log that user A have opened the page 1, it's not application insight. It's not for let's say for audit reason or for security reason. Application insight is not your best storage support. You need to go through something else that will be more suitable for this case. But if you want just to know that these users for the last 13 days have been accessed, have accessed, how many users have accessed this page, it could be helpful using it with Application Insight, since Application Insight is designed really to monitor and troubleshoot. So continuous export will help you to get all the information together for later analysis. We go through all the ways in how to explore your data through Application Insight. We go through demo later, so I will show you all of those features. The first one that is very interesting is smart detection. Why smart detection is very interesting? Because people know how to get application developed, how to get application deployed, but not all of them knows how to monitor the application. So depending from the language, the development language, from the servers, from the technology that you use to deploy, to serve your application, you can have some different metrics. Smart detection will help you to get insights and alerts about known patterns for application failure and applications that are not doing well with performance. So let's take an example. If smart detection will figure out that 100% of your requests are failing now, so you get an alert. You don't normally, if you want to get an alert, you need to set up them one by one. You need to have the expertise to get to know that you need, for example, to set up an alert for 80% of your CPU. If you have, for example, if you are dealing with IIS, you need to know that if you are over 80% for your CPU, that means for more than 5 minutes, you are in trouble. So you need to get experience about the right experience about this to set up this alert. With smart detection, this is done for you because smart detection is a kind of best practices for application performance monitoring that are provided by Microsoft. And there is also an artificial intelligence in the behind scene that will figure out if you have some patterns that need to be monitored and need to go through detection and triage and diagnose. So this is the part about smart detection and manual alerts. That means you can configure smart detection to provide you with alerts about something that you don't know, and maybe you don't have the expertise to get the right information about it. And also you can set up manual alert. For example, you know that if your server have more than 50% of error response for more than 10 minutes, something is going wrong. If you have dependency that is down, something is going wrong. So you can provide also manual alerts. The second feature is application map. Application map is a kind of map. It's a map about all your application dependency, and it's help you to know what is happening between your application and all the dependency. That means how many requests are going from one component to another, how many error, how is the right error, how is your application really communicating with the right dependency. It could be sometimes something very strange, but we have a missed configuration in the production where we are calling the wrong dependency. With the map, you will be able to detect this. Now, if you want to get metrics and to get charts and to get real useful information about your application, you can use the dashboard, the Azure dashboard, to get all the information for application insight and to display, for example, metrics such as CPU consumption over time, such memory consumption, request rate, average response time, error rate. You can get all of this in the dashboard, and you can share it in your open space, for example, with the development team, with anyone who is concerned with your application. This is very helpful because when you get those information that are available for anyone from the team, you get very fast alerting system. That means anyone who is used to see that the CPU is always over 80%, and you will get a look at the screen and say, okay, something is wrong, I have 80% for more than 4 seconds, you'll be able to get the alert for you. So the dashboard are very, very useful to help the team, the whole team to go through application monitoring and to know what is happening in the production with the production application. You have another part which is live metric stream. So live metric stream here is you have the same chart about how many requests are your server handling, what is the duration of the request, what is the dependency call. But something very important about this feature is live. So why we are talking about live metrics? Isn't application insight monitoring our application with the, let's say, instantly and with using live metrics? So in this case, it's no. Application insight need ingestion time since it's receiving a lot of metrics, and we need to go through ingestion time. Ingestion time can go up to 5 minutes, even more sometimes, but as soon as the information are collected by application insight, they are made available for you. So this is why live metrics will be able to connect immediately to your server, to your application, to get what is happening now. And it's a feature that is not, we don't advise people to use it because it's very resource it's consume a lot of resources, and you figure out that this direct connection sometimes can impact your application performance because you are using the resource, direct usage of the resource of your server. But when you are using application insight, the SDK that will collect your data. It's something it's very light, and it will not impact your application. If your application is under stress, you will not send metrics. You will try to get many of them and use batch to send them when your application will go over the stress period. So it's something, it's very smart, let's say, SDK that will help you to not impact your application performance. So you have the usage analysis, which is a very nice feature to know how are your users using your application. Okay, so normally if I ask the product owner or manager how the users are using the application, they say, okay, we know our users. They go through the homepage, search for a contract, and after that they open the contract. And they will get very surprised when they go through this kind of feature, when they will figure out that users go to the homepage, search for all the contract instead of just searching for one contract, and using the browser search feature to figure out to go to the contract they are interested on. And they will say, okay, this is very resource consuming because normally we need to go to the contract and need to filter before. And it can help you optimize the performance of your application and the user experience. You can also, since Application Insight will help you to collect many metrics and a lot of them. So you will be able also to aggregate many of them to provide you with charts that are very useful. But also you can go and search through these metrics. You have the ability to go through the search for any metrics. It's a full text search experience. And when you get everything about what is happening, and you can even go and search for specific metrics using some criteria. So the other feature is analytics. It's log analytics. So Application Insight is ingesting a lot of metrics, a lot of data. So it's your CPU, memory, application, dependency, all what is happening inside your application. And this is done through the SDK. So sometimes what is provided natively by Application Insight features is not sufficient enough. You need to go through some, let's say, you need to query those metrics. And Log Analytics was designed for this. Log Analytics, known Costo language, it's a search engine that can go through over 1 million of data very, very quickly. So you can use it, provide your request with your query, go through the data that you want to aggregate. It's very interesting to use also statistics and also render chart with it. So it's very, very powerful language that will help you to analyze your data and to get all the power from this tool to get very, very insightful, let's say, analysis. Now, since Application Insight is Microsoft product, so it's very well integrated with Visual Studio. So if you're still using Visual Studio for your development, for example, for C#, .NET Core, and .NET ASP.NET, you can have a full integration inside Application Insight. That means you'll be inside Visual Studio. You'll be able to get the exception or real-time information about what is happening in your application. You will get all the view of Application Insight inside Visual Studio. This is very helpful for developer. The two other features are Profiler and Snapshot Debugger. Profiler is a sample of the code that was executed in your production environment. Let's take an example. I open the home page, and the home page takes 1 second. I check all the dependency. It takes only 10 seconds. I check all the dependency. Everything is working fine for the dependency, but that means the code that is executed inside my application, inside my homepage, that is taking a lot of time. So that means I need to go through the code. And in this case, Profiler will be very helpful because he will provide me with the call stack of all and with instrumentation information about all the method that was called inside my code execution. I'll be able to say, okay, this is normal. I get 10 seconds because I'm getting 1,000 results from my query, and I'm going looping through the 1000 results to display them, and this takes a lot of time. Normally I need just to get 10 lines from this query. So Profiler would be very helpful to go through the code performance. This feature is only available with ASP.NET, with .NET and .NET Core. So the Snapshot Debugger is another feature that will help you to get snapshot of the memory. And it's very helpful, let's say, for exception. All of us are receiving message, or when we get through the log of a production application, we get errors such as system null reference exception. So okay, this is and we don't get the line, we don't get anything about this exception. We need to go through the code and check what is the possibility that we have for this kind of exception. So with the Snapshot Debugger, application insight, when he gets an exception many times, he will get snapshot. Snapshot is the memory. It's a snapshot, memory snapshot. It's mini dump, where you will have access to all the value of your variable when the exception has happened. That means you'll be able to go through all the field and say, okay, this one don't need to be null. Why it's null? This one don't need to get this value. So you'll be able really to go through, let's say, to diagnose very, very quickly your exceptions. So now to visualize your data, you have, as we have said, the Power BI integration. Power BI will be very helpful for manager, because visualization, all what we have talked about, is available only in Azure portal, and manager sometimes don't want to go to Azure portal because it's very technical for them. So with Power BI, you have the full integration, and you can provide them with the reports that are inside Power BI. It's a tool that could be used very easily with the managers, and you can provide them with insights and KPI about your application. You have also REST API, application insight REST API that you can use to query to get anything from application insight using REST API call. That means you can integrate it with any other tool if you want. The last point is continuous export. So we have talked about continuous export before. It's a bulk export of all what is stored in application insight, and it's something that you need to activate because, as we have said, application insight data are just saved for 90 days. Okay, that means it will be just 90 days, and after 90 days, all the metrics is deleted. So this is why if you want to save the application insight metrics and logs for longer, you need to make the continuous export to storage and just save them wherever you want. So let's go through a demo. If you have questions, you can go ahead. So I will go through demo and I will answer the question. So application insight is available in Azure, only in Azure. It's not an on-premises product. It will help you to monitor any kind of application. ASP.NET Microsoft application, Java application, PHP application, Node.js application, any technology that you want. For those languages that I have provided, you have the SDK. It's already there. That means just to add the SDK, for example, for Java or for JavaScript or for Node.js, and the SDK will be able to handle the normal capture of known metrics. That means the dependency will be captured for you. You don't need to do this by yourself. Imagine if you want to do it for another language that is not supported. You are using Go language, for example, for development, and all what you need to do is to call the SDK, and since application insight is a REST API call, what you need to do is just call your REST API to make the monitoring. It's as easy as that. So let's go to the portal. This is the application insight. I have already opened an application insight instance. Application insight is free for 5 GB of metrics per month, and after that you pay for extra gigabytes. It's not very expensive. If you compare it to other provider, it's really not expensive at all. So when you create application insight, you go through, you have many information, the resource group. Something that is very important is the instrumentation key. Instrumentation key will help you to get, let's say, to connect your, this is the only required information to connect to your application inside. So the dashboard is will help you to get the failed requests inside immediately, the service response time, the server's request, so you know what is happening inside your application very, very quickly. And you can ping them all to a dashboard. This is how you ping to the dashboard, and as soon as they are pinned to the dashboard, you can just provide this dashboard to your team to help really get all people involved with the product, with the monitoring of the application. So something very important about what is happening here in the dashboard in the first overview is those one are 95% information. That means you get 5% of the metric that was collected for this for those views that are not take it into account when you are viewing this results. This is normal since in performance sometimes you can get some requests that are very long. And it's very occasional, so we don't consider them as the source of truth for monitoring. That means it could happen sometime. So this is why you get this information. So let's go through all the features that are under application insight. First one is application map. So application map, as we have said, will be very, very helpful to show to you what is going inside your application from the dependency from dependency side. So imagine all of you don't know anything about this application. So when you go through this application map, you can figure out that there is two instances. Those one, this is CH retail app AA, and this is CH retail app for ZE. This is the two service. I have this instance that is calling an Azure queue, that is calling a SQL database, that is calling an Azure blob. I have also an Azure table that is called by this instance. I have also an availability service that is provided by application insight just to watchdog my application. It's a kind of ping. Each 5 minutes, you will make a ping and to figure out if my application is available or not. And I have also this instance. So that the second instance that have the same calls to my Azure queue, to my SQL, to my Azure blob. It doesn't call the Azure table. That means this is dependency related to this one only. And I have the availability server that is calling it. So let's zoom a little bit. And when you zoom, you get more information. You get the average response time, how many calls was done to the Azure queue, you get how many calls to the SQL database, you get many information, and you get also the exception. So here, if I click on it, I get more information. So this is the server, the instance. This is the name of the servers. I have failing, I have slowest, I have all metrics of failed request, and I can go through all of them here if I want. So as you see, this is very helpful to know what is happening inside your application. So to figure out why the call is taking 9.3 milliseconds here, for example, it could be something that's not very interesting. I can figure out that this call post to this instance is taking 70.3 milliseconds, and this is the highest duration. So I can go through it and investigate the performance. So this is very helpful to get an overview about what is happening inside your application. Let's go to smart detection. Smart detection, I don't have anyone here, but this is the feature that we have talked about, where we get alerts automatically done for us. We don't need to do anything. So here I get an alert because my server response time go from 1.5 seconds versus 55 milliseconds the previous 7 days. So all of this is done for you. You don't need to get some any alerts and any logic for alerting to have those detection rules. All of this is done by Microsoft for you, and also is based in artificial intelligence. That means you will get more information as soon as your application is in the production. We can go to large metrics. Large metrics, as we have said, is very resource consuming. be aware when you are using it, because you are connected directly to the servers. See, here we start with the request rate, we have the dependency core rate, we have the committed memory, how much memory my server are using, the exception rate, and we have the name of the instance. So here we have two instances. This one is a VM. It's a VM that was created, and this one is app service. It's the platform as a service that is provided to host application without managed application without any setup needed. So here I get information that are coming from the servers, and it's real-time information. As I told you, be aware when you are using this because it's very resource consuming. The search feature, it's a kind of search. So you search for anything. For example, I want to know anything that is related to result 409 result code for my dependency, and I can figure out that I have all of those one where I have 4.8 result code. I can search for anything. So it's a full search feature. So something also very important, when I click on it, I get the information about what was happening, and I can figure out why I'm getting those dependency 4.9. I get the event name, I get the dependency type, what is the result, why is the call status successful or not. I get all the information that are needed to do this. So we'll talk about this later in the performance section. So availability, it's a feature, as I have explained before, that is provided for you to be able to ping your application from many Azure region. I use it to get information about the server's site availability, because it's very interesting to have a watchdog that will call each 5 minutes my server to get the response. And also I use it to know the result, the response time from users that are not near my servers. For example, I am in France, so I have my application that is hosted in, let's say, in West Europe, and I have many users that are connected from Brazil. And normally I get all my users that get to the application in just 5 seconds. When I put this in place, I figure out that if users from Brazil are going through 20 seconds to go through my application. So it's something that I will not be able to get immediately to watch. Let's say I can get it from the metrics, but I will not be able to watch. So I have added from the region a new region to watchdog my application, and I have added some other component to my application to be able to be available for Brazilian users without going through my, let's say, West Europe region. So this is very helpful to watchdog and also to monitor the response time for my users that are from a specific region. The next feature is failure. Failure is something that we need to watch. It's the most important part about application insight. This will help you to monitor how are your code doing. Is your production, on-premise production response are not going through exception? So I can figure out here I have a lot of exceptions. So I have 6. I can go here. I have many of them, 14. I can just zoom on it to figure out what is happening. I can match with other metrics. For example, I want to know if it is related to CPU consumption. So here, okay, at this time my CPU consumption was very low. Let's check, maybe it's memory garbage collector issue. So no, it's not garbage collector. I have garbage collection here, but it was not as usual that. Maybe it's related to storage. For example, it's a disk issue. So I can match with many other metrics. So let's figure out what is happening. So I can click on it here, the first one. So I figure out it's 404 error. So, and with HTTP exception, let's go click on it. So I have many metrics and many sample that was collected for me, and I have one that is suggested. So let's go through this. And here I have the end-to-end transaction experience. So I can check that I go to my employee create address, URL, and it was for this ECUS Cloud App Azure.com. My server ch retail VM get the request, and go through the exception. I have the code stack here, or the code stack. So, and something very important, I have the memory dump that you have talked about later. So I can open it. Sometimes it takes times to open it because it can get something huge, but let's go. I already opened it here. So here I have the code stack for each of my, the code stack for this exception. And something very important here, I get the values. We have here, I have a no reference exception, and what is happening? My customer is small, and this is something that is not, for me, it's not affordable. So be very careful about this feature, because if you have password, if you have some sensitive information, you'll be able to get them, since it's a memory snap. So you get all the information about the controller, about the value, about anything that is in the context, the request, anything. You get all the information. It's a memory snapshot. Let's go back here. So this is about the exception. So if you have Azure DevOps, you can just create a work item directly in Azure DevOps using this link. So it's fully integrated with it. They have a full integration. So this is about failure. So failure, you'll be able to get all the failure, go through them, get samples, go through samples, go through to end-to-end experience. End-to-end experience will show you where the error has happened. If you have a debug snapshot, you can be able to get the debug snapshot. If you don't have the debug snapshot, at least you will have the code stack and you'll be able to debug your application and know why you are getting this failure. Let's go to the performance. So the performance is the same view as what you have in failure, but it will be related to performance. Here you get the home index page that have an average duration of 1.51 seconds. This is something that is not usual at all. So here I can figure out that my request time have taken a lot of time comparing to what I have usually. So I will zoom into it. So I can get that. Here I have 1.8 and I don't get a lot of requests comparing to here. That means it's not related to the load and something wrong goes here. So let's click on it. This is the index page taking a lot of time. And here I can get a view about the duration and how the duration is depending from the number of requests. So let's go through a sample to know what is happening. Yes, the performance is the last part of this presentation. So when we talk about performance, we are talking about how to diagnose them and how to go through them. So as I told you, the same as failure. So you get the overview about what is happening inside your application, go through the pattern that you have identified as the pattern detected as the wrong pattern, go to a sample. There's one end-to-end transaction detail. I have a detail here. So what is happening? I have a call to my get home index. So I have 3 milliseconds for this one, 40 milliseconds for this dependency, which is a call to an Azure storage. I have my Azure queue that takes 2 milliseconds, 15 milliseconds, and I have a lot. But I figure out that the whole transaction takes more than, let's say, 322 milliseconds. Okay, that's fine. So something very important here, it's something related to code, since all the dependencies are doing very, very well. So I have dependencies that are less than 15 milliseconds. So what I can do is I can go to the profiler here, and with the profiler, I just need to click here to go to the profiler. This icon is for profiler. So, and with the profiler, I'll be able to go through the code. So here, okay, my hot path is this one. So I'm waiting for more than 3 seconds here. And I'm waiting for what? For a telemetry client flash. That means Microsoft Application Insight. So this is not related to Microsoft Application Insight. It's not the Application Insight. The issue is the fact that your Application Insight is waiting for the code to be executed. And I'm getting a lot of results from my Azure table. And this is why for this home index, I'm going through a lot of time. So this is the point about how to go through the code and to detect the code performance using the instrumentation, how many the thread time, and also the timeline when this method called helpNode. So as I told you, this was the last part about application insight performance. So thank you a lot for your attention, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate.
Thank you, Ahmed, for today's session. And now we have many questions in the Q&A part. If you check on the published section.
Yes, we can go through them. So is Application Insight available for web app running in Windows host? Today, Application Insight is only available for Windows, let's say, hosts in web application with the full integration. That's mean with Application Insight and web app integration. But if you have your application that have the SDK, that means the SDK, that means you have added it through NuGet or through npm for your Node.js or through Maven for your Java application. So you need just to add the SDK. And in this case, you will not need to use the integration that is provided by web app service for your application. So to help so the question here is, hello, is there any video to help how to implement Application Insight in ASP.NET MVC application? The source of truth is really the documentation. Go to the documentation, Application Insight documentation. You have how to do it, and section, you have ASP.NET. Go through it, and normally you have all the steps that are needed to get through your Application Insight and ASP.NET MVC application. Otherwise, what you need to do is go to Visual Studio if you are using Visual Studio, and right-click in the project, add Application Insight dependency. Okay, so this is what you need to do, but all of this is explained in the official documentation for Application Insight. We have trying to connect to proxy, which is another server, and getting 500 error. Is there a way I could find the stack trace in App Insight? Yes, for sure. If your application is, let's say, if you have Application Insight metrics for all your, if you have Application Insight metrics for all your component, that means it's set up in the application, and in the backend application that you are calling, you got the full stack from it. The next question is, if I configure some of the settings like pinning, failed request, etc., is there a way I could store them somewhere so that I can reuse when I deploy App Insight again? So Application Insight is not a deployable component. That means you create it and you make your application pointing to it. And your application will send all the data to the Application Insight instance. So that means if you redeploy your application, you don't need to care about it. You need just to keep the same instrumentation key. If you have the same instrumentation key, your application will continue sending, let's say, the metrics to the same instance, Application Insight instance, and you can get all the information there. Something very important is the time to live for any metrics, which is 90 days. That's it. So this is what you need to get. How to monitor a Java app that is running on my laptop. So for Java, since you are not using the Visual Studio, you will need to get an Azure Application Insight instance. You go to your Java application, you go to the documentation, how to do it, and you go to the Java section. It will depend if it is a Java application or Java Spring application. That's you will have two paths for doing it. So if it is Java application, you will need to go to Maven, add the SDK, and as soon as the SDK is configured, you need just to add some GDK also some dependency, GDK dependency, and you need just to run your application. When your application will be running locally, you will get all the information that are going to the Application Insight instance in Azure. That means you figure out that there is some call, HTTP call to the Application Insight. So nothing else to do. You need just, you need just to have the application inside instance in Azure and have your the SDK installed in your that was added to your application. Next question, it is possible to see the detail of the application located in AWS or GCP via App Insight. Yes, for sure, there is no issue about that, since if your application is hosted in AWS and application Insight is an SDK, that means it will be a code dependency. So you add the code dependency to your application, and as soon as you have added, it will be running inside AWS or GCP, and it will send data to Azure. You need just to watch the ingress data that will send from AWS and Azure, since you will pay for it. That's it. But it is possible to see the detail of what is happening, since it's your application context. Next question, is there a way to investigate why you got 409 there? Yes, for sure. You go to the 409 error. If you go to the code stack, you will figure out that it's related to an operation that is called create if not exist operation in the storage. That means the storage, it's a table storage. You will figure out if the table exists or not. If the table doesn't exist, it will create it. At the beginning of the storage, this operation just will return always 200 result, but it is very time consuming. That means just to check. We advise people to create the table when they initialize the application during the deployment, and inside their application they need just to go to the table. That means they didn't need to check if it is existing or not. So a lot of them didn't follow this guidance. So what have been done by the Azure storage team, they, instead of returning a 200 error, they return a 409 error to say the table exists, but check this error when you go to the documentation and figure out that you don't need to use this method. It is better to just go to the table because it's very quick. So how do you ensure that dependencies are up and running before making a request? So it's watchdog. You can use the ping, the availability test, and just watchdog your application. Have this watchdog running each 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, and you set up the frequency, and you will have you can figure out that dependency is running. So next question, is App Insight same as New Relic or Datadog? Has App Insight important advantages over the two I mentioned? So Application Insight, New Relic, and Datadog, all of them are APM, Application Performance Monitoring System. So what is the main difference between them? Application Insight, for example, will be very well designed for Java and Microsoft, Java, and Node.js application. Datadog is more specialized in PHP. You will have more data. Pricing is not the same. Application Insight pricing is if you need to calculate how many data you will be collecting, and it could be very let's say it could be very cheaper than the other options. So, but comparing feature to feature, almost all of them have the same. And Datadog almost have the same interface as Application Insight. New Relic have a different interface. So the other question is, earlier you said live metrics is getting live data, but it's very resource consuming and it could impact the performance of my Azure web app while running. So to use with caution, what about enabling Application Insight in general on my web app? Say my web app is sharing an app service plan with other web app. We enable Application Insight use resource on that app service plan, memory, CPU, or it is ingested, pre-processed in different resource. So here we are talking about Application Insight impact into application performance. As we have said, Application Insight SDK was designed to not overuse your application resource, the server resource. That means Application Insight SDK will send batch metrics. He will not set one metric by one metric. He will be able to figure out when you have a lot of stress in your application to reduce the number of metrics. That means instead of saying I have one exception with the full detail, he will send just one exception with the count to say, okay, I have this exception. It's almost the same for 100 exception, but it happened 100 times. So I will just send one metrics instead of sending 100 metrics. Also, if you have a lot of stress, for example, CPU is more than 80% for a lot of time, let's say, application Insight will reduce the number of metrics. You will lower out the number of metrics because your application is prior to metrics. That means you need to serve your users before sending metrics. So this is how application Insight will work. Live metrics, as I have said, is a direct connection to the resource. It's provided by the SDK, and when you use it, that means you are using the resource instantly. You get the information now. So this is the difference between the normal processing way with using the SDK and the live stream. So the one other question: how do you enable Snapshot? I have only 3 into operation. So Snapshot is enabled by default when you use the app service. That means using the app service with the pass in Azure. Snapshot is available by default. You have 10 GB of Snapshot storage that you don't pay for. It's there. That means it's a free server that will be available with application Insight. And you need just to enable the integration with application Insight, and it's only work for .NET. It doesn't work for Java or for .js. Are there any benefits for AKS? So when you go through monitoring, you have 2 parts. You have the infrastructure part and the application part. That means for AKS, what is available today natively is the infrastructure part. That means you know what is going through your nodes, are your containers alive or not, how many containers have been shut down, what are the memory usage, what are the CPU usage. But you don't know what is happening inside your application. That means if your microservices one that is hosted in, let's say, in a node, in a container, have called the microservices that is hosted in another container, and he is not able to get the response, we get an exception. You will not get this because AKS will say, okay, both of them are alive and both of them are healthy. But it could be that your application is responding always 500 exception, and he will not be able to get this. So you need to figure out that you have the infrastructure monitoring that is provided by AKS, that is provided through the Azure Monitor part. And plus, you need also to monitor your application to be able to diagnose and to be able to go through troubleshooting and to know what is happening inside your application. So the last question, I think, to use application insights is mandatory to deploy application in Azure? No, not at all. You can deploy the application whenever you want. It could be on premises, it could be AKS, it could be Google Cloud, whenever you want. Just you need, if you do this, you need to install the SDK. That means you don't have the full integration that is provided by Azure for Web App. That's it. So 2 features will not be available is the debugger and the profiler. If you want to get them on premises, there is some support. You can contact the support to have some steps to follow, but it's not available by default. This is the only difference. So the last question, let's go through it. When I deploy an application to different region in Azure, do I have to set up application Insight for each region separately? As we have said, application Insight is just one instance. That means since you have the same application that is deployed in many regions, you need just to provide the same instrumentation key. When something will go through the, for example, you have a call to the application that is hosted in region 1. So it will send the metrics to the same instance. You will have a call that is happening in region 2. You will make the call to the same application Insight instance. Inside application Insight, you have the host name. That means you know from which service this metrics have been coming. So you'll be able to go through the map to get different instances, to know each instance is for different region, and to figure out what is happening for a region and to troubleshoot separately, since you have the information about where this request or dependency or operation was proceeded. So you just need to have one instance. When here another question maybe is, when do I need to have many instances of application inside for my application? So imagine you have two perimeters, let's say two application perimeters. You have the front application and you have also the backend application, and you have different teams and they are totally separated. So in this case, you will have a different instance because you don't want to always filter by instance or by, you want to get all the information that are available for this team together in the same instance, and you can monitor this separately. But from what we have seen, always it's one instance for one application. Okay, so thank you a lot. I have finished with the question. Yes, this was the last question. Thank you a lot. Sam, I think you need to unmute.
Yes, I think I'm audible. So what I was saying is that I would like to share a few things with the community. First is to take out the Reactor survey, spend a couple of minutes here to help us understand what are the topics that are interesting to you so that we can include this in our programming. I'm pasting all the links that I'm sharing here in the Q&A section. So there is an event code for every session that we're doing, and for today's session, it's 7790. So please use it when you are taking the survey. The second thing I want to mention is a few upcoming sessions that are happening this week, which you can also continue learning and join us tomorrow. We will be having a session on taking the data science needs to the next level with Azure ML Studio. So in this workshop, it's building up on past sessions that are happening on Mondays. You need some knowledge in Jupyter notebooks and basic understanding of data science, which we covered on the past sessions. And this will help you understand more how to use the power of Azure in your cloud solutions. And on Tuesday, Hank Bollman, a cloud advocate at Microsoft, will take us into AI on the Microsoft stack. In this session, we'll dive deep into the AI stack that Microsoft has to offer. We start with the pre-trained cognitive services and move to the more advanced tooling like Machine Learning Studio and Azure Machine Learning Services. On Thursday, we have a session on 8 machine learning examples. In this session, Sarah Guthels demos each of the 8 machine learning algorithm categories described in the Azure Machine Learning cheat sheet. You can come spend a couple of hours. It's going to be on the Twitch channel for Microsoft Developer. We'll be comparing and contrasting algorithms to learn how to use one model over the other. Also, you can subscribe to our newsletter, which will give you a monthly curated email for developers containing latest articles, documentation, new technology, opportunities for you to connect with other developers and to continue the journey and learn. Similar to that, there is the Azure Developer Community newsletter, which also is a great resource to be part of. So subscribe to both the newsletters and also explore the Microsoft Cloud Society, where you will find also learning paths and webinars that you can benefit from. That's it for today. Thank you, Ahmed, for the session, and thank you everyone in the community for joining us today. And we'll hope to see you in the coming sessions. As I said, tomorrow we have something, and we hope to see you in on that session as well. It's gonna be at 4 for a couple of hours. It's a data science workshop that we're doing every Monday at 4. Thank you and stay safe, everyone.